a typical trauma survivor, and let me just say, anything can categorize a trauma survivor. So divorce in and of itself is a trauma, a bad divorce.
And now,
I'm the captain now.
coming to you from the K2 Studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's hitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Kristine Show.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for listening. I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 158 of the Kris and Kristine Show.
It's great to be back. The dynamic duo is back in the K2 Studios.
I don't know if I would call us dynamic as much as like dynamite, or maybe more like C4.
Why would you say such a horrible, explosive thing like that?
Well, because that's how my anger is today.
Oh, come on, babe. Come on. Be cool now. Can you say be cool?
Be cool. Ow. I'm getting bit by a dog right now, so I don't know how I feel about
be
that.
Cool. Hey,
Clover, the podcasting puppy, is sitting right here. She's playing with me. Normally, she's super calm, but like she's going for broke right now. She's just chowing down on my hand.
For tonight. What's going on
I know. She's very aggressive. Like
you know what it was? I think she actually misses you so much that she's like, "Oh, my mommy is back. I love it so much."
I guess so. I guess I'm a Clover chew toy tonight, but she's sitting here and she's playing. So if you hear any jingling around or a little bit of growling, it's Clover, the podcasting puppy.
Now, Clover, you gotta calm down a little bit. Just take a chill pill, relax.
She's normally so mellow when she's in here with us. I don't know what's going on today. But anyways, I'm glad to have Clover here. I am glad to be back. Was I out of town last weekend?
You've been out of town like for the last 2 weeks.
It's been so much travel lately. It's been a lot.
You've been traveling more than an over-the-road truck driver. You've been like...
I don't think that's true.
Hitting the grapevine and all that,
I heard it through the grapevine.
Driving.
No, but I definitely have been on the road. So it's nice to be home for a couple of days before I hit the road again on Thursday.
You are going out of town again?
Yeah, I'm flying this time though. So
well, that ain't too bad, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a short 2-day trip. But, it's just lots of stuff for work, consulting on my days off, and then actually, my regular job is sending me up to the Fresno area because we're going to do some school site visits with one of our school districts at some model schools up there. But it's been exhausting. So I am tired this week. And this weekend has been just like time to catch up on everything. I finally was working on taking the Christmas lights down by myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it just so happened there was nobody around to help me.
Where was I? Is that work?
No, you were out at the mall with the kids.
Doing the Lord's work is what I was doing. on a Saturday, is what they say.
I guess so. That's what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah.
You say that to everything. You're like, doing the Lord's work. That's what they say. Who's they, Kris?
Well, like everybody.
Okay. So, I was taking down the Christmas lights, and then I had to organize my closet and kind of pare down some stuff, and grocery shopping, cleaned out the fridge and the freezer, washed the dishes, did laundry, did like 6 hours of work today. I am going back to work tired.
Today's Sunday as we record this too. You actually worked on a Sunday?
I've been doing stuff all weekend long because I'm just trying to stay on top of it. So
look at you.
So Kris, in comparison to everything I did around the house, tell me what you did to contribute.
First off, I do a lot around here. Like I take care of poor little Clover here. And
in what way?
Don't forget little Pumpkin. I forgot all that Pumpkin we got in the garage. Poor little Pumpkin. I forgot all about her.
Your turtle?
Is she still alive? I don't even know.
See, this is what happens, people.
I gotta go look and see if she's still alive.
Shall we tell the story about dinner tonight? Shall we tell the story?
Oh, wait, we had to dinner earlier today.
Oh, no.
That was later.
We went to lunch. So today,
but it was a late lunch.
So today we woke up and I was doing work all day and Kris was doing other stuff. And then we had a 1 p.m. interview today. So we had coffee this morning like normal. And then after we were done with the podcast interview around like 2:15, I realized I hadn't had anything to eat. And, the little one, he got himself cereal this morning. Kris got himself cereal. We walk out, the 13-year-old is like making himself breakfast, and it's like 2:15.
As you do at 2:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
make
and
breakfast.
I was like, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I was hungry," and I was like, "Okay, well, we were gonna go get food." So we go out to Black Bear Diner. He did eat a little bit there here at home, but then we went out to Black Bear Diner and we had a decent sized late lunch. Well, the kids had only had one meal today. And so it's like 8:45. I'd finally taken a little bit to relax and watch a movie in our bedroom. And then I get up and I come downstairs and I like called the kids down. I was like, hey, are you guys hungry? They're like, yeah, we're starving. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, it's 8:45. Kris is sitting on the computer yet again doing podcasting stuff. So I guess 8:45, after my one little break this weekend, now I'm starting to make dinner for everybody. You walk in as I'm cooking up the meat. I decided to make them carne asada nachos. And I'm cooking up the carne asada and you come in and you're like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm making dinner for the kids. What? They already ate. I was like, Kris, they ate at 2:30 today. It's 8:40. It's 6 hours later. And that was their only meal today. Like, what? That was enough. Friends, come rescue me, please.
Parenting done right. You know what I'm saying?
Wah, wah, wah. CPS, if you're listening to this, please disregard that message.
Well, listen, they had a big meal for lunch. We all did.
A big meal.
Actually, it was more like dinner than lunch, really. Because it was like middle of the afternoon.
No, it was at 2:30. That is not dinner.
I call it dinner, which is lunch and dinner pretty combined.
No,
Linner.
It's lunner.
That's what I said. Linner.
Linner. No, it's been a tiring weekend for me, not gonna lie. So sorry if you don't hear my normal perky self on the
I'll have to bring it for
podcast.
both of us, I guess.
I guess so. Well, that's how my week has been going. Actually, I didn't even say the rest of my week. So when I was working up north, I had to go up north for a couple of days and I didn't want to drive and plane tickets were too expensive. So I ended up buying a train ticket and taking the overnight bus and train. Oh, it was so crazy. So it was on Tuesday night. No, sorry, it was on Monday night. I ended up leaving San Diego at 9:30.
At night, by the way.
At night. And then I took the bus and it took me up to Hanford, California. The bus pulled in at 3:45 a.m. And then I had to wait out in the cold for 39-degree weather to get on my
39-degree weather.
To get on my train at 4:15 in the morning. And then ride for an hour on the train to go and get picked up by my dad in Hanford. And then my dad picked me up at the train station. I got off the train at 5:30. We got back to my parents' house at 6 o'clock. And then I had enough time to shower, change my clothes, get my work bag together, and get on the road by 6:45 a.m. and then worked all day.
Look at you, rock star, you know?
No, it was insane. No more overnight trains. No more putting myself through that kind of torture.
Well, on the train ride, did you at least get to sit by the engineer and blow the whistle or anything like that? Any cool fun stuff?
No, it was only an hour-long train ride, but no, in the bus, at first the bus was a good deal, except the bus seats are different from plane seats. They're kind of slightly sloped down. So it's instead of them being even like a regular chair at a table, they have this slight angle downwards. So you're sitting on them, but that you're consistently slightly sliding down.
Like sliding off the front of it?
Yeah, kind of.
Weird.
And so they're far apart. You can't prop yourself up against anything. The nice thing is on the way up, that for the from San Diego to Union Station in LA, I had 4 chairs to myself. So there was one that I was in, there was one next to me, there's a little table in between and 2 others. So for that time, I had my feet on top of the table and then I could prop up and fall asleep. So I slept for maybe an hour and a half. But then when we got to Union Station, the bus became packed. There were so many people.
No way.
So
late,
many
late at night like that?
Yeah, so many people. I had this whole road to myself. And then this lady, she walks up to me and she asks if her little girl can sit next to me. And then I felt bad because it's the mom was sitting across from the little girl. And then I was like, do you want to sit here next to her? And then I ended up in an aisle seat. So then there was no place to lean. The man next to me was nice. He offered me the window seat, but I felt bad and I should have just taken it. But I didn't take it. And so then I couldn't sleep the whole rest of the time. And then
that's horrible.
Once I got on the train in Bakersfield, because it was so early in the morning, they don't make announcements for each stop. They said, for the first 3 stops, because of the time of the morning, we won't be making the announcement. So set your alarm or you need to stay up to make sure you don't miss your stop.
Oh, I would have missed that for sure.
Yeah. So I was like,
I would end
sitting
up
there.
like Oregon or something.
I was sitting there and I was like, okay, stay awake, stay awake. And then I dozed off and then I realized the train had come to a stop and I was like, shoot. And so I like ran downstairs and I looked at my clock and it was 5:19 and I knew that I was supposed to stop in Hanford at 5:30. So I thought maybe they got there early and I went downstairs, grabbed all my things and waited by the door. And then the train stopped and I started to get off of the train and I had my whole wagon full of stuff with me and I was about to pull it out and then it said Corcoran, which is a stop before Hanford. And I was like, shoot, as the doors were dinging and they were about to close and I had to like jump back on really fast. Otherwise I would have been stuck.
Oh, no way. You got for the wrong stop.
I almost did. Almost
That's like a Home Alone movie. I think the plot of it, one of them wasn't.
Except Corcoran is where Corcoran State Prison is. It's not a place that you want to get stuck at 5:20 in the morning.
But is that the only thing there in the town?
Basically.
Oh, the town.
So there's no Uber or anything. So if I got stuck, it'd be like me and the inmates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was the adventure that I left out. That
Trains,
part.
planes, and automobiles. The only thing you forgot is, I guess, the planes and I guess the boats.
Well, I'll be on a plane this week. So I guess trains, planes, and automobiles. Yeah.
But no boat yet. We'll figure out how to get that one in the mix too.
That's
sometime.
not in it. It's trains, planes, automobiles. So.
Oh, yeah. I get you. Wow.
Well,
busy Kristine.
Yeah. Busy.
So when are you going to be busy doing flower wedding stuff?
No weddings until April, but I've been meeting with clients and getting proposals put together for them to review. And yeah, it's been a busy time of year, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a busy time, as we start 2023, there's a lot of people that want to do new things and take on new roles, new resolutions and things like that. Because every New Year's resolution, obviously everyone breaks it by now, I would think.
No.
For the most part. I mean, I think most people, it's like you always think the new year is always a big reset. Like this year, I'm going to do this and this differently. And this is the year I'm going to do all these fantastic, wonderful things.
I am really on track with my resolution.
Well, yeah?
Yeah.
I really
am. It's to be mean to you.
Well, congratulations. You're doing a wonderful job. And my resolutions love Clover so much. And I do love her so much. I'm
still her favorite. So
she did tell me that you are. How dare you, Clover? Come on now. I mean, when you were gone, I was Clover's little cuddle buddy.
Yeah, you were a good proxy. You were just like the stuffed teddy bear.
But remember the video I sent you when you were gone? When I took a video of Clover, I said, "Hey, Clover, where's Mom at?" And she like looks around the house for you in the video. It's like she's not here, Clover. She's like, "Huh? What did he say here? Where is she? Where's Mom at? I miss her so much."
Well, what have you been up to this past week? I know I was home and chatted with you for a bit, but what's been going on in your world?
Well, in my world, I'm working on my podcasting made easy production services from Podtastic Audio, and I'm working on that right now this week.
And what does that include?
Well, it includes me helping companies or businesses create podcasts for themselves very easily, So I actually got one client now I've had for a little while now. I'm working on them and kind of using that as a springboard to hopefully get more clients and help out anybody who wants to create a podcast that really doesn't understand like the ins and outs of all the mechanics of how to physically put it together. I'll take care of that for them.
Oh, that's exciting. Is that something that you really enjoy doing?
I do really enjoy doing podcasting. So there are some days where it does get kind of daunting or just tired, don't want to do it. But for some reason, I think...
What? You have never, ever mentioned that. You're always like, I can't wait. Can we podcast? Can we podcast? You texted me like 17 times today. Can we podcast? Do you really ever get tired of it? Tell me the truth.
Okay, you're probably right. I probably don't. I love it so much. I really do. I do. It's like, it's a hobby, but it's also an obsession.
I think it's an addiction. I think you need to go to PA.
Huh? What's that?
Podcasters Anonymous.
I think what the thing is with podcasting, it even goes back to my YouTube days when I was doing YouTube videos a long time ago, is that I love like the content creation part of it all. Like I love just being so creative and just creating things out of thin air. Like, look, I just made this.
I get that.
And it becomes very addictive when you have people that actually listen to it and you get excited to want to be part of your creative, activities. And I think that's what happens with me, because I remember years and years ago when I was doing the YouTube stuff, I was one of the first people to actually use YouTube way back in the day. Actually on YouTube before Google actually bought it. And I made a few videos on there. And I remember just playing around with my old computer. I'm talking my old, not the last computer, the computer like 2 generations before that one, which barely did video on it. So anyways, I figured out how to use some Windows Movie Maker on there. I figured out how to make some videos and I made those and put those on YouTube just to play around like, what's this new YouTube thing? And it got really addictive just playing around with different formats and playing around with different clips and different transitions. And you could add music to this thing. This is amazing. So podcasting for me is like that, but on another level.
Oh, really?
Yes. So now that I have this show and Podtastic Audio and the business Podtastic Audio, it's really been like my passion in life. I've always loved radio. I've always loved audio, love music. In fact, I was just thinking about this. I actually have consumed more audio content in my life than anything else.
How do you know that?
Well, you figure I've been a driver for probably most of all my life, really. Been in a vehicle.
No, you've been a driver for 14 years.
Hello. I was a pizza delivery driver before that. Back like right out of high school. So I was listening to audio and radio back then. In fact, I lived in the country. We didn't have a lot of television, so audio was all I had. Radio was all I had. The few stations we did pick up. And then, of course, radio in college and that sort of stuff. And I actually called into the radio station once or twice. I was a radio junkie back in the day. In fact, most of my driving career, I would listen to morning shows and radio shows most of the time. So that's why I wanted to get into podcasting in the first place. I figured, why not? If they can do that, we can do that. Why not? Here we are,
Interesting. And now here we are, 158 episodes later. How many episodes do you have of Podtastic? Is it like to the 100 point yet?
Not quite. Almost. I'm like in the 80s, I think.
Oh, that's amazing.
It says 80s. I have to double check.
Okay, so how has Podtastic been going on for more than 2 years now?
Yes, it has, I believe.
I can't believe that. I thought that it was only like a year ago you started it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it just started out as like people write into us here and say, how do you make the audio sound great? How do you make you and the guest and everybody sound so great? And I would give them some advice. And that's kind of where the idea of Podtastic Audio came from, was just helping other people. And I said, well, why don't I just make another podcast kind of walking through what we do here to kind of help other people? Like,
I just can't believe that it's already been 2 years. That's amazing. Well, congratulations. I know that you've done so much. I mean, think of it as 158 episodes of this show, plus almost 100 episodes of Podtastic, plus this other podcast. You're going to be in like the Podcasters Hall of Fame. Like, is there a trophy for like the person that produces the most amount of podcast episodes every year? Because I think you'd be it.
No, I don't think I'm quite there yet. There are people that literally do this for a living every single day, and they've got
so crazy.
like 10 clients, but that's all they're doing. They're not working anywhere else.
Yeah. It makes me think of like the streamers. Like maybe the next thing that you do is like you're going to start streaming. Like, here's how I edit a podcast. Have you ever thought of that? Like, do you think people would actually watch that? Like,
there are so many of those on YouTube about how to do every little thing.
But like live streaming, like on Twitch or Discord or something like that.
Once I ever earn the time off to actually have time to figure that out, then maybe I would.
Oh, okay. So we're going back to complaining about how much time you have because you're so busy.
That is the truth. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, thank God for this new MacBook computer I have, because the old computer wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff. Like I wouldn't be able to run multiple podcasts.
Oh, you used to get so angry. You're like, this stupid computer.
It's taking forever.
I'm like, just buy yourself a new one. You're like, no, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to add more memory. And I was like, Kris, trust me. And then when we went to like look at computers and you were like, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get a PC. I was like, you should get a Mac. If we're going to be doing all of this audio content stuff, you should really get a Mac. I promise. And you were like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get a Mac. I think I'm going to get a Mac Mini. I'm like, but then you still have to buy the monitor and all around. You should get a laptop so you could take it on the go with us. And you're like, I don't know. Then finally you were like, okay, I bought myself a Mac laptop.
Thank you, honey, for helping me.
Who was right?
Show me you were. Show me the light. But I am thinking about upgrading, by the way, because not this one is bad or anything. It's just that the new Mac Mini just came out, and I could totally use one.
Really? Is it a want or a need?
It could be a need.
I like that. It's like asking a woman, like, the new Gucci shoes, is it a want or a need? Well, technically, I need new shoes.
But the way I look at it is like this. If I'm doing podcast production for clients and they're actually paying me real money to do this, I'm going to need a foolproof, like, guarantee I can get the job done. And I'm always worried that things are going to break and go down for whatever reason. So the way I look at it is like this, is that when it becomes a bit like if you're a plumber or any kind of contractor, you're gonna have more than one set of one tool for the job. You have multiple tools, I would think.
I don't know. Would you? I mean, if they're the expensive tools, you only have one of them.
Right, but you got to have ways to figure out, like if somebody hired you to like fix their toilet or whatever, and you say, only have one wrench, but you can go rent another one real quickly and go get one and whatever you need to do. I'm saying something like that, I would think.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is how Kris justifies spending over and over and over again on the same thing. So,
well, that's why I always like to have a podcast. I like to have a backup to podcasting stuff. Like I back up everything twice. I back up, and then
Is that because you just want to back it up, or is it your OCD?
It's OCD, really, is what it is. And it's also my fear of things just like failing, in life. Like I'm always afraid of things just falling apart, because most of the things I've touched or have used in my life have broken or fallen apart at one point in life. I would say.
So did this just transition into a therapy session?
I think so. So the doctor says, "Oh, bye too."
Well, here's the couch. Lay down. So, well, I'm glad that things are going so well with you with your podcasting business. Is there anything new that's been happening in your daytime work job, or just kind of slow and steady wins the race?
Same old at work. I know it's been kind of slow for the industry here. At least it's kind of slowed down a little bit. I don't know if it's Tesla has anything to do with that or not. But because
that was random. Teslas?
Because, one's buying, not buying gas, they're buying electric cars or whatever, things like that sort.
Oh, okay.
But, it is what it is. It's just kind of, luckily for us, we do have steady work compared to other competitors that may not have steady work. So feel blessed for that regard, I guess, so to speak. So, every time I come in, I'm always working. They always have work for me to do. It's not like, oh, we're not working today, go home kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because I've had jobs like that where you didn't know if you're working today or not because how slow it was.
Wow. Well, I'm grateful that you have a nice steady job and that you have a side hustle with a fun money coming in for your projects, and that you have all of these different things happening. And congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, babe. The sky's the limit, the way I look at it, Yeah. And especially if I have fun doing it, like you mentioned earlier. Like I enjoy doing this stuff. If I didn't enjoy this, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But because I love doing it, it's different. It's a different aspect to it all,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's been something that's helped us to really figure out a good rhythm for the two of us, something that we have in common, that, a hobby that helps to keep us close. And I think that that's really important, even though I roll my eyes on nights like this when I'm so tired and I'm like, I really don't want to podcast. I think it's a good thing, a good routine that we have to at least slow down and sit down and catch up with each other, huh?
I absolutely love it. I think communication in any relationship is key. I would say it's probably number one in my world, I would think, is good communication with your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you were to think back to your first marriage, do you think that communication was something that was strong, or do you feel like maybe there was areas that you needed to improve on?
That I needed to improve on? Well, I think my stupidity, I would say, is that I just assumed too much of the other person. I just assumed that they would do what they said, or that they would help be part of the team, I guess, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I felt like it was not a team. I felt like it was me and her, and we're on the same. We're bicycle. We're the bicycle tires. Like I'm in the front, she's the rear, but she's flat and just kind of going off their own direction, doing her own thing, and I'm trying to struggle along and pedal, but nothing's going along. We're not going together in the same direction.
I get that. And that's so hard. And I know that, both of us going through divorces, we had a lot of those hesitations and things going into a new relationship, and a lot of those traumas. And I think that even as we're navigating all of these different things, me working out of town, and it's really forcing us. I mean, because technically we're still newlyweds. We've only been married for 2 years. We're still having to work through some of those traumas and things like that. I know that you've mentioned to me that you can get a little bit sad when I'm gone so long, and that, it can be triggering if you, for me, having a spouse that had been unfaithful previously is, there's always that anxiety, oh my gosh, while I'm gone, is there anything happening at home? And I'm thankful that I have a lot of trust in you. But I think that trauma from divorce can pop up very unexpected.
And this week, our special VIP guest is a divorce coach that specializes with trauma.
Absolutely. And we're going to be back with her right after this. Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Kristine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic VIP guest. I am very excited for this conversation. She is a dynamic divorce coach. Welcome to the show, Alberta Jordan.
Hello, and thank you.
Thanks so much for being on the show, Alberta. How are you doing today?
I'm fabulous. How are you guys?
Great, Alberta. You got Alberta Jordan. You got two names of two locations. Think about that.
So where are you closer to?
I never thought about that.
Are you closer to Alberta or are you closer to Jordan?
I am closest to Alberta. Yes, I believe I'm closer to Alberta.
Right, because Jordan's a country in the Middle East. So
Yeah.
I think Alberta, Canada. But speaking of that, where in the world are you joining us from today?
Memphis, Tennessee, actually.
Memphis,
Ooh.
Tennessee.
Yes.
Have you been to Memphis, Kris?
Let me think. No.
I have.
You have?
And I've actually seen the Broadway musical Memphis. It was amazing. Have you
No
seen that
way.
one, Alberta?
I have not, but I have seen a different Broadway musical. So
Yeah.
I love this city. There's just so much to offer.
So what are some of the highlights of Memphis? I've heard that there's a great music scene, but it's a different kind than
You think
Nashville.
of Nashville. You think of Nashville.
No, I said it's a different music scene than Nashville. But what is Memphis famous for?
Memphis is famous for barbecue. And
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny enough, like I'm not married to the barbecue places. Like there's definitely good barbecue out there, but I feel like I can cook pretty good. And so I typically make my own barbecue when I want some,
Ooh.
right down to the sauce. So
When you make your own barbecue, Alberta, do you
Uh-huh.
use like the coals, the wood, or the gas propane?
I use coals typically.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered about that because there's different regions of the country have different types of barbecue styles and different types of
Yes.
sauces. And so do you know, like, is Memphis famous for more of like smoky kind of types of barbecue sauces or like the sweet maple kinds of, or is it like all different kinds?
I'm going to say it's all different kinds. And something funny is when I moved to the South, I never even heard of dry rub ribs.
Interesting.
It's here that I learned it. The difference north versus south is interesting. But I'm from the north, so I like my ribs sloppy, wet, and plenty of sauce,
Yeah.
coleslaw everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we roll with that.
Nice.
So have you lived in Memphis for very long?
I've been in Memphis for 2009,
Oh, wow. So
or since 2009.
that's a good amount of time.
Over 10 years, with like 12 years,
Mhm.
something like that. Yeah.
I am technically a Southern woman, so I have achieved my goal. But before here, I also lived in Nashville, so I've got it in both cities. But I do love Memphis the most.
But you mentioned being from the north before that.
Mhm.
So where did
Mhm.
you hail from before you became a Is it a Tennessean? How do we call
Yes.
them? A Tennessean?
Hey, I'm happy with the Southern woman title. I'm
Oh.
very proud of that.
Awesome.
And my mom tells me I have an accent.
You
oh,
do.
So-
a little bit. Yeah, I can hear it.
Yep, you definitely have a little bit of a Southern accent. We can hear.
Yeah.
We can hear that.
I'm very proud of that. But I'm from Chicago.
Oh wow! I would have never guessed.
Do you like the Chicago deep dish, or you even care for the New York thin slices at all? Or
I like Chicago deep dish.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely.
Did you have a favorite pizza place when you were in Chicago?
When I was there, it was a very long time ago. Giordano's was the top of my list.
That's Kristine's favorite too, I think, isn't it?
No, I like Lou Malnati's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if it was around when you were there.
Like
but...
the Colt, you mean?
Uh-huh.
The Illuminati. Aren't they the Colt or something?
Illuminati. Oh my gosh, Kris. Well, we are very excited to have you on the show today, Alberta, because it's a topic that's very near and dear to both Kris's and my heart. As we actually started this podcast, I don't know if you're aware of this, but as Kris and I started dating, we figured that we would start a podcast to talk about dating after divorce and what that was like. And we just ended up, we fell in love before it, but we ended up getting engaged and married. And so we've kind of adjusted the focus just a little bit, but we feel that talking about divorce and divorce recovery is something that's really, I don't know if it's taboo, but it's something that people don't talk about a lot, is what that journey is like for people.
That's right. People typically go anonymous to have those kinds of discussions. People are typically chatting on Reddit or Quora to really let out their feelings. And it's something, if people only knew they are not alone. This is such a prevalent, pain that people share because, sometimes things just don't work out.
Right.
And sometimes our trauma, like in my case, my trauma affected my relationships. Because of the trauma, I chose toxic relationships. So, and I'm not the only one, unfortunately. But, for people to find out, listen, you're not alone. And here is a place where, and this is why I'm happy to serve in this space, I hold people's hand post-divorce to walk through the processes with them so that they can come out whole on the other side, as whole as they can be.
Now, you touched on something a little bit ago, which was like the trauma that you took into a relationship. But one of the things that Kris and I, because we have super open conversations about our past hurts and our traumas, because we feel like if you don't talk about it, it can haunt you, or it just becomes like a little festering piece in your relationship. But one of the things that we've talked about is the trauma of divorce itself and how it can really...
It's like one of the worst things a person can go through, like a death in the family, almost that level, I would think.
I've even sometimes felt like it's sometimes even worse than death, because you have to still know that person is still living.
Okay.
Yes, and statistics say that. They do say that divorce is a trauma that is, very high. I'm trying to remember if it's number 2 next to death or if it's number 1. I'm sorry, I that's not really sharp in my head this moment, but it is very high out there because you have to continue in some cases to see the person and you still have ties.
Right.
And this is not a person that is gone. This is a person that is still here. So it is definitely, more than a notion and more than a challenge to try to live through in a healthy way.
Right. And then see that other person potentially moving on, quote
that's
unquote,
like the worst,
quote unquote, moving on, or especially if your relationship ended because they left you for somebody else, then, feeling that, not even guilt, because it's not guilt, but that shame and that devastation.
Yeah.
It's just, when I think back through that moment, especially as there's certain times of the year when those memories come flooding back, regardless of being happily married, it's like there's still, even, 7 years later, I look back and I'm like, ooh, that spot's still a little bit tender in my emotions. And I think I still have some trauma remnants there.
Yeah. That's real.
So with what you do as a dynamic divorce coach, you talked about working with people post-divorce. Can you tell us a little bit about what that actually looks like and how you come alongside people?
Sure. So my specialty is, again, navigating life post-divorce. I don't get into the thick of things with the clients when they're in the divorce process. I do my best work if I save myself and my energy to help pull the person, once they're ready, on through life to a life of healing and to live more powerfully, to live more confident. And I have actually an 8-week program that addresses the various scars and the various goals that one faces, the hopelessness, the shame, the guilt, the powerlessness, the feeling of not being enough, the feeling of rejection, which even whether you were left by someone, or in my case, even though I was the person to leave, I still felt rejected. So, and I have 30 years of trauma that I have lived through, and I have really considered all the various, nuances of things that need to be addressed so that you can go on whole. as whole as can be. Now, I always, preface it, I'm not a therapist, and I
Right.
typically prefer that people see a therapist first because I don't want to trigger them.
Oh, yeah.
And so the consult is very, very important. And the readiness level of my clients is so very important because again, my population is a trauma survivor in particular. And so if that trauma survivor is stuck in that victim mentality, I can't help them.
Right.
They
That-
have got to be ready.
Well, how long does it take, do you think, Alberta, for someone to go from the victim mentality to being ready to actually have a conversation with you and open their mind up their mind up to figure out what the next step's going to be?
Where they're in charge of their own journey, that's up to them. And typically, just like when a person's in a physical abusive relationship and people are looking at them and going, why don't you just leave?
Right.
The person isn't ready to leave. The person hasn't suffered enough. They haven't gathered enough of themselves to get it done. So even if somebody grabbed them and snatched them out, they go back because they're not ready. And each person's journey is different. And so each person's readiness level is up to them.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think about myself and, maybe I would have really benefited from a divorce coach. I just found that I took a lot of therapy. I figured out what my emotional wellness benefits were for my insurance and I maxed them out trying to figure out I need people to help me. And I think that once I did that healing work, I really was looking for someone to help me figure out how do I even step out and create something new for my specific situation. I was married pretty young. I got married at 23 and then, it was my first boyfriend. I'd never really dated other than, this individual. And then when I found myself a single woman having to step out into the world, I'd never been that before, a single woman. I had been a teenager. I was, very, very young. And so I found myself okay, what even is my favorite color anymore by myself?
What?
Exactly?
Yeah, because you don't have somebody else talking with you about it. Or what is it like to feel confident enough to go to the movies by myself without, worried that people are going to think I'm a weirdo? And am I confident enough to go into a restaurant and confidently say, table for one? And what does that look like without, burying my head in a book? And so do you help people work through things like that? Or what do you focus on?
Yes, absolutely. And so you're speaking right to the heart of what and why I'm serving trauma victims. A typical trauma survivor, and let me just say, anything can categorize a trauma survivor. So divorce in and of itself is a trauma, a bad divorce, not a you friendly parted divorce. Nope, I'm not for you. If you had a bad divorce, I'm for you. If you had any kind of physical, emotional, verbal, any kind of abuse, it could even be parental abuse because that cripples you too. You have been harmed and you're limping through your life. And because you've been harmed and you're limping through your life, your windshield wipers are not clearing your vision enough to allow you to see because you've been harmed, and that's why you're limping. And so I address the source. I address why the person is limping. And again, I like to use me as an example. So I was sexually abused at the age of 5. It was a friend of the family, was my auntie's boyfriend. And he had become so friendly with the family and would volunteer to watch the kids whenever he came over. Everybody thought he was such a nice guy. And this guy would violate me right in front of the family. And I would just, look around and I would feel so crazy. Didn't they just see what happened?
Yeah.
That guy just touched me. Or he would chauffeur us to the back of the house, volunteering to watch the kids where he could do more harm. And so that tore down my sense of safety from that point forward, I've never felt safe. Not only that, my sense of identity, who I was, my boundaries were crushed. I didn't know what I wanted because I was made to do something I didn't want to do.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that because I hadn't even, I know that there are people that step into relationships that have trouble with boundaries or go through abusive marriages, lots of different types of abuse where they learn that, or I don't even know if it's learned, but they're conditioned to believe that holding boundaries is not okay. I hadn't even really thought about the individual that comes into a marriage feeling that they can't hold boundaries or they're not allowed to hold boundaries, and how that continues to play out, not just in their marriage, but in the future. So, I know you said you're not a therapist, but what's some of that work around educating your coachees about how to set and maintain appropriate boundaries?
So first of all, we have to start with truth. The victim has to, number one, be willing to tell themselves the truth. It has to be acknowledged. What happened to them gets acknowledged through therapy. And then just like what you did and what I did. When I went to counseling, I saw a therapist to acknowledge all that happened to me so that I no longer felt crazy and I no longer felt shameful. But then after that, my future was up to me. And so I began to tell Alberta the truth about Alberta. And that is so important for a person to flip the switch out of the victim mentality. Not everyone wants to stop being a victim. Not everyone is willing to tell themselves the truth because then it means they have to change. And so that was why I said earlier, it depends on the person. They have to be ready. I've talked to some people, they're not ready. And I can't help them. I want to. So once you start telling yourself the truth, you start peeling off these layers where you can then begin to see and discover who you are, what you want. But until you do that, you can't know who you are or what you want so that you can set a boundary.
That makes a lot of sense. And I have witnessed so many different people that they stay in that really wounded victim state after their divorce. And then what I find, because they haven't done that healing work of, I don't even know if it's healing work, but like that self-reflection enough to say, like, I don't have to be a victim anymore, is they start to perpetuate relationships that allow them to stay in that victim state. And, maybe they did or they didn't do therapy work to help them work through their divorce, but if they stay in that I'm the victim or the poor me mentality, and that perpetuates in relationships, are you able to support people like that? Or do you still need them to come further before you can work with them?
Well, so when I do a consult, that's where I'm able to assess where they are. And I do several different assessments to give me a broader view because 30 minutes is not a long time to talk to anybody.
Right.
Well, I can tell by their language. I still like to be thorough. So, but I can help anyone who is willing to tell themselves the truth. Pretty much. If they're willing, I can pretty much, that's just the place where we got to start.
That makes sense. Yeah. You know what? I think that I would have done well with you as my divorce coach. How late, or is it too late for somebody to start? Like, do you need to talk to them while they're single only?
I'm working with someone right now who has been divorced 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So the time does not make a difference. It's the willingness. And maybe for some people, it takes them 40 years to be ready. It's just, we all live our lives. We're all on our own journeys. And, we just can't compare, certainly not my journey to anybody else's journey. So I'm just here for anyone that's ready. I just love doing this work.
Alberta, is it mostly females or males? Or
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, that could come to you.
It's the ladies because we're self-reflective.
So I'm open to both. actually. But I have coached some males, but I do primarily get women, and I'm fine with that. I'm here for anyone who is ready to do the work, because the work is important, because it's going to make the world better.
It tends to be the women though, because we put in the work.
Well, and the guys will now, Alberta. On this other note, with trauma and trying to help people out, do you get people coming to you with substance abuse? They really are like trying to they're trying to fix that. You're asking you for advice on how to fix that because they are using their substance abuse to kind of I don't know, subdue their trauma they went through.
Yeah.
What do you tell those guys or
Kris,
women?
that is an excellent question. So I do also have a background in behavioral health. It was one of my earlier jobs when I was younger. So I'm very sensitive to the needs of someone who self-medicates. It depends on, and I connect very, very well with them because I understand. And I tend to think that they're some of the best people that I've met, quite frankly. Now, depending on what's going on with them, like how wrapped up they are in that, or if they're at the end of, I want to help myself, I just need hope. In fact, I just got a referral for somebody like this, actually. You just reminded me. It depends.
Okay.
Because the reason a person self-medicates is because of their trauma.
That's very true. And so I can imagine that that's challenging to be able to help an individual through substance abuse type of issues without getting into that therapist role, and then also helping them to see the need, if they're working with you, to go back to therapy to deal with some of those other issues that aren't going to be able to be tackled during coaching.
Sure. And it is it's also workable, I think, to talk to a therapist at the same time. So again, this is going to depend case by case. I have referrals ready if a person needs to be referred. I'm definitely not going to get in over my head.
Right.
But I really do empathize, and I understand, because the pain can be so great. I myself, my first heartbreak, I was suicidal.
Oh, wow.
I became suicidal, and I wanted to self-medicate. I wanted to drink. I just wanted the pain to stop.
Right. Yeah. So, Alberto, I was going to ask you, how many clients come to you with exactly like that are suicidal? Have you had any come across and you talked them down?
Now, no, I haven't had any suicidal come directly to me. And I'm going to tell you, if I do have someone come to me who is suicidal on the ledge, they will get a direct. In fact, I'll stay connected with them while I refer them to a specialist. Then that is something that they're going to go straight to a specialist for.
Right.
And then once they deal with that emotion, to come down off the emotion, because I can't work with you if you're hiding your emotions anyway. Nobody can.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you're not listening to reason or anything, really.
Yeah, because you're in desperation and not in a point where you're ready for healing.
And then there's this statistic, depending on the person, like how far or how long they've been having these notions. A person that has truly made that decision, you can't stop them.
Right.
So we just had a seminar on this, in fact. Yeah, so they're going to get a referral.
Well, I'm glad that you have a really good support network to be able to, it sounds like, you can get started with coaching and then you can realize, oh, wait, there's some needs here that have come up that, I can still work with you on coaching to a certain extent, but we might need to pause while you go back in and get a little bit more mental health support. And then, let's reactivate and continue to work forward. I could see how that could kind of come into play. But I had another question for you, because I know we've been talking about some of the hard stuff and the trauma. Is what about when people are ready to take that next step and they're saying, okay, Alberta, I've been working with you and I think that I want to put myself back out there.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think that I want to get into the dating game. And, what do I do? How do I get started? And I know you're a dynamic divorce coach, but I can imagine that part of that is I wouldn't think that your goal is like, I find my success if people can get out there and date again. Like, your success is helping people to be whole, healthy, and happy and well-rounded. But let's, spill the tea to us. When they're ready to get out there and date again, do you help them out?
So when the person has finished with me, my goal, and I'm saying my goal, but please understand that this program is customized to each person. What really matters to me is that I am also really doing what they want, because
Mhm.
everybody has different goals. And in fact, a lot of women now are choosing not to get remarried again
Right.
and just to stay single. And
That was
and
my
that's
thing.
fine.
That was my thing because after I got my divorce, I was feeling like I never want to get married again. I told Kristine this when we first started
When you
dating.
first started dating, he did.
I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't feel like getting married. What's the point? I mean, it just could be another heartbreak.
And I even said to
Yeah.
you, I was like, well, that's something I would desire to get married again. So,
But you get divorced too. I think your divorce. Well, both our divorces were pretty traumatic. But I
but
think,
what I was going to say is that when you and I were talking, you were saying that you thought that you might not want to get married again. And I said, well, I really enjoy your company, but ultimately, like if you don't desire to get married again, then this doesn't have long-term viability for me because I am looking for a partner for life. And I remember you were just like,
I don't know.
I was
Let's play cool. Let's play cool.
and you know what? I will say it because, we keep it real on this podcast is, Kris, I don't want to speak for you, but one of the things I notice is that you did bring a lot of trauma into our relationship.
Oh, okay.
But, you've talked with me through it. So do you feel like you've been able to like heal from some of your trauma while in our relationship?
I told you this the other day. Then what did I tell you yesterday?
You tell me again. I need to hear it.
I told Kristine this yesterday. I said, hey, of all the times in my life, the history of my life, if you look back at my history of my life, like say a bunch of old postcards of my life, this has got to be the happiest time I've ever had in my life is here with you right now.
All right.
And why is that?
All right.
Because I love you. That's why.
Okay,
Well,
but why do you love
love's the
me?
ultimate answer for everything, really. Why? Because I love you. That's why. Why? Why? Why do I make you do chores? Because I love you.
But do you feel safe is my question.
Yes, I feel safe. I feel like, wait, what do you mean safe? What do you mean by
Like
that?
emotionally safe.
Okay, there you go. Yes, I do.
I mean, not like I'm going to pull out a gun safe, but
Well, that's
like,
different, but yes,
but because, when we entered into this relationship, we talked a lot about, and it was important to me to have a partner that I could talk with about the things that I had gone through, but not in a way of poor me, play a tiny violin for me, but of, hey, this is what I have gone through. So when I react in a specific way, even though I've healed from it, this might be a trauma response and it might be a trigger. I might need to take a breath. And we've had to learn what those things are. But I think that, having someone not necessarily be your therapist, but help you coach through how to recognize those things so that they don't implode a relationship is really helpful.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, like, do you have some clients that start to get back into the dating pool and maintain your services just to help them, like, make sure that they're still aware of how they have or haven't dealt with their trauma while they're getting into new relationships?
So what I typically do is I address triggers long before we get to the end of the program.
Okay.
There is a lot of work around triggers. And not only that, there is a lot of work around just the self-esteem, recognizing self-sabotage, building resilience, and putting some safeguards in place so that they can bounce back from negativity. Because you've been scarred. Anybody
Right.
that has gone through this, you've been scarred, and you have to recognize the things that may set you off. And once they're done with me, so what I do is I help them get their groove back.
Oh yeah, that makes
So
sense.
that's the tail end part of the program. It's a more attractive you. It's I can help you be more powerful, confident, whole, more purposeful in your life, which that in and of itself is so powerful. And then more attractive. I address that part.
Okay.
So what I
people come
address
in.
is
I'm sorry.
sorry.
People when they come in, do they feel like they don't feel attractive? Really, when after this happens, I mean, I would think that if your spouse left you or had a horrible divorce, you would
Mhm.
feel like, gosh, I feel like a horrible, ugly person.
Yeah, you feel broken. Yeah. And so even just in my case, again, I was the person that left, but I left because I was, I had a spouse that was unfaithful. repeatedly. That's rejection.
It is. It's same.
And you
it's same
tend
thing.
to
Yeah.
think, what's wrong with me? You feel that way.
Right. Yeah. Kris and I actually both went through that. We were the ones that ultimately pulled the trigger, for a lack of better terms, saying like, I'm not going to be in this kind of a relationship anymore because I'm tired of being cheated on. And so even when you step out of it and you weren't technically quote unquote left, you did the leaving, it still leaves that wound of that not enough. And what was it
Yes.
about me that made me not enough? And one of the things that I had to do in therapy, not necessarily in coaching, is to realize like being cheated on actually had absolutely nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the other person and their own personality flaws or their own past trauma and self-sabotaging behaviors.
Insecurities, too. I think it's an insecurity
and
thing.
insecurities. And it doesn't mean that I have to be like, psh, that had nothing to do with me. Of course, do self-reflection and figure out how to come out on the other side stronger and set boundaries and, be aware of red flags. But that attractiveness piece, like, are you coaching people around like physical attractiveness, or are you helping them to see themselves as who they really are so they feel more attractive?
Both.
Okay. Great. Because I think when you have confidence and you have this mentality of like, yes, I can almost do anything. And I think after a divorce, really everything gets stripped away from you and you are down on your luck, really down
Bottom of the barrel. Yeah.
Yeah, bottom of the barrel. I mean, literally, you can be drinking out of a barrel, I guess. What you can do, but so you do kind of help people, kind of like, look, you are, you're a good person and you're attractive. Go out and get them, Tiger. You know what I'm saying? And help them out. But how soon is too soon if you get divorced to even think about dating somebody?
Yeah, so that's one of my warnings. That is one of my warnings because the pain is so great and people are so lonely. I know I was so lonely. But if you have not done the work, you're going to wind up in another toxic relationship.
Yep.
Because you are the same person. You're taking all the same hurts, all the same pains, and without changing anything, without changing your mindset, without any sort of self-knowledge, without any tools.
Right.
And that's going to be way more painful to realize. And you're going to be even deeper in the barrel than you were behind the first relationship that went south. So, I really caution very strongly against that. It is okay to take your time. You need the time to love yourself.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I never used to want to be alone. I used to be afraid to be alone. But then I embraced it. And once I started embracing that and learning who I was and spending time with myself, I got to the point where I would rush home, get my Pizza Hut pizza, lock the door, and I was just so content.
That's Kristine for you.
Oh my gosh, that's like, seriously, the fact that you just said Pizza Hut, you ask Kris, what's my favorite pizza to have when I'm by myself?
Pizza Hut, but
well, from work, and he'll be like, oh, you had a single lady night in. I'm like, this is like watching Hallmark Channel, eating my Pizza Hut.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I am like happy when, but it took a while to get to that point where I wasn't like sitting with my pizza at home watching movies and being like, poor me, I'm by myself. Instead, it was like, yes, this is great. I am my own best company.
It used to be me planning what do I need to do after work, or where can I go after work? There was just mindless sort of activity of avoiding the house.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, I was thinking, as we are at the beginning of this new year, launching 2023, so many people make New Year's resolutions about how they're going to better themselves. And so if you were to be able to speak to that individual that's just finalized a divorce recently, they've been going through the therapy to do the healing work, and now they're saying like, 2023 is my year, but how do I make it my year? What would be your best advice for that divorcee?
So I'm going to give 3 self-care tips. And then I'm going to tell you to call me.
That's tip number 4.
The first thing so going into the new year, in order to be on the road, on the path, because it's a journey for sure. On the path to becoming your best self, there are some things that you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed and out of control. And that's what typically happens to us, because life after the divorce, life during divorce is such a roller coaster. And you can feel so overwhelmed and so stuck and so like you can't part the clouds.
Right.
When you're feeling that way, I want you to stop and take 5 deep breaths. Just breathe. And I don't mean shallow breathing. I mean, get to a place by yourself so that you can be with yourself and focus on your breathing. Just take 5 deep breaths and settle yourself. So that's 1, when you're feeling overwhelmed. And then 2, always, always, always tell yourself the truth.
Mm.
If you tell yourself the truth, it will help you avoid drama and potentially dangerous people and situations, because here's the script running in your head when you're lonely and when you are in pain. You see a connection. They're not even your type.
Right.
Then you know that they're not your and you know they have trouble written all over them because you're lonely.
But
what do you do?
he's cute and I like him.
I mean, they could
Might
be
be cute.
They could be clothed as a red flag, like literally.
in a red flag.
And then you're like, I love that shade of red flag. That goes with my eye
If you tell
colors.
yourself the truth, you avoid that red flag.
Mm.
Yes, he is cute, but he also looks like pain.
Right. I like that.
He's not right. What I really need is to be with myself right now. There are other things that I can do that won't hurt me.
You know, I just want to pause you for a second, Alberta, because in all of my years, I've never had someone say that, and it makes so much sense, is tell yourself the truth. It's like people will say, oh, be honest with yourself, but like tell yourself the truth is different from being honest with yourself. Like telling yourself the truth is looking at a situation and saying, gosh, I am lonely right now and I am craving connection. And I know that if I am not careful and I do put myself out there, I may find myself attracted to someone that's going to do more harm than good. So because I know that about myself, I'm going to do the following to help set a boundary and to give myself a better option. Like to be that metacognitive and that hyper aware, that is a huge tip for people to be able to step into 2023 with, is like, tell yourself the truth. I love that. So what's number 3?
Well, let me tell you what I did for this, a good example. So when I was feeling especially lonely, if I wasn't at Starbucks studying or doing something studious, I would bake cookies or some nicety and take it to the fire stations and thank the first responders.
And you weren't doing it to pick up a fireman?
No.
Okay, good.
Not at all.
That
Not
would
at
have
all.
been my move, not going to lie.
Kristine.
I'd be like, hello, sir. Oh, you're on the calendar? You really are a red flag.
I like July the best.
Oh my God.
So I
As long as
generally
I'm
hit
not
my
Julying
children
to
with them.
myself. Say that again.
I believe in service,
Mhm.
and I generally had my children with them, and I would, it turned out to be a very good event as well for my sons. They got to learn to serve, and they got to get in the fire truck and have a good time. And then I was very intentional about giving each, conversation to each first responder and not like hanging around just one. Nope.
Right.
I didn't do that at all.
That's really
so
good.
Number three is stop and listen to your body. So this is something survivors, are so very guilty of. Trauma survivors have a high tolerance for pain. Once when we survive this trauma situation, we tend to just keep re-victimizing ourselves. I'll give you a quick example. I would get into the car. to ride, and I wasn't driving. I would be on the passenger seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get in and I would wind up sitting on my foot. I was very uncomfortable, twisted in my seat. Now, I'm a trauma survivor. And instead of me just saying, Alberta, girl, get your foot out the seat and straighten your body up. But because I'm a trauma survivor and I'm used to pain and I'm used to nobody caring about what I wanted, that was the mindset. And I would ride that way the whole time.
Wow. So how did you address that?
As I started telling myself the truth, you start peeling back the layers. So once you start telling yourself the truth, you start to acknowledge everything. Oh, I'm in pain. Alberta, move your foot, girls. What's wrong with you? So it's a part of telling yourself the truth. You begin to pay attention to the other needs of your body and whatever else you just need, period.
Do you think it's a little bit of a panic attack that you get because of just little things, really kind of like things that really shouldn't be important? Like, I mean, I know Kristine always tells me all the time, like always get upset about things all the time. Like I blow it out of proportion, but it's like a small trivial thing, but because of maybe past trauma, past hurts, that in my mind, it blows up tremendously. You ever see that?
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Kris, is you're going to sign up for Alberta's 30-minute consult? Does your work and your coaching, this is something that I've been wondering about, does it only work when people are single post-divorce, or what if they're remarried and they still haven't gone through the work to heal from their first divorce? Like,
Oh, their second divorce, I know.
well, but I'm really wondering, like, is there a specific time post-divorce, like you need to catch people while they're single, or can you work with them effectively while they're re-engaged in another relationship?
So that's really not my target market. And I'd really have to think about what I could create specifically to serve that population if there was indeed that need. Because keep in mind, I am setting a person up. So I'm helping a person heal, acknowledge, and then building them back up, helping them set proper boundaries in place, and then helping them learn, okay, figure out what do you want? And then talking about what to look for in new relationships and how to address self-sabotage so that they can be ready for the relationship that's coming forward.
Right.
So I don't have a segment that is ready for people that are involved in a relationship already. My target market is typically serving people who need to get ready for, or whether they want to be in a relationship or not, but they're typically single.
Alberta, I got a question for you about this.
We have to tell you first. So Kris and I, we have signals to each other when we're in the studio, and we both have questions, and we're like trying to beat each other to the questions. So Kris, I'll let you go first.
Okay, Alberta, since I won the challenge here, I'm going to ask you, hey, is this only for marriage divorce, or could this be relationships breakups? Because some people will be in long-term relationships.
Oh yeah, good point.
And the same trauma really happens. I mean,
I can definitely serve that population as well. Definitely.
That's really good to know. But I had another question. So when you were talking, it made me think of, so kind of going back to Kris's substance abuse question. So not a substance abuse question though. I think of when a person is first starting, like let's say that a person is starting an AA program or an NA program, they're starting the 12 steps. And one of the key components of that program is that they need to not get into a new relationship while they're working their sobriety. And there's like, they shouldn't be involved in intimacy and things like this because it can get in the way of the work. When you are first starting with your coaching clients, do you have conversations with them around, like, if you are to engage physically with someone, how it could stunt some of their growth? Or like, do you have conversations and like set commitments with them around that so that you know that they're really committed? Or is it like they can do whatever they want?
No, I don't have physical commitments like that. I leave that up to the clients. The work that we're going to doing, the work that we're going to be doing together is so deep that I think they'll come out fine anyway. They'll root out their own, bad choices, if you will.
That's good, because I was thinking that to our listeners out there, if they're listening to you and they think like, well, I have to go cold turkey. I can't be seeing anybody else. I can't be, doing any of this other stuff. It could be like a little bit intimidating, but it sounds like it's like, I'm going to work with you. And then it's not like you have to stop dating, but it's like, I'm going to help you figure out if you're deciding to, look for new partners, how to be aware of who you are. And like you said, tell yourself the truth so that you don't ignore red flags or yellow flags that could end up re-traumatizing you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, I am honest with my client. So if we get to a point where I'm not serving them, maybe because for whatever reason, if they do have interference, I'm not going to waste their time.
Right.
I am a servant at heart, and this is such a privilege for me to help people get what they want. That is just, it's just the ultimate.
Mhm.
And if I'm not doing that, I'm not happy.
Right.
Right. Definitely. Alberta, what is the craziest request you've had from a client that says, this is what I want? I want is blank. Now, what would that thing be?
I haven't had a crazy request.
That's good. Chris likes to always stump our guests. He's like, I want to hear you. What he's really asking for is tell us all of the dirty details. Chris, she's not going to do that because, she protects her clients.
Well, not saying pull names out of the hat or like that. Well, here's this one here, Joe. Joe, who he wanted.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
No, we're very realistic. I haven't had any crazy requests.
All right. So now we're going to go into, as we're getting ready to wrap it up, I would love to know, because we talked about your advice for other people, but there is a very high profile couple in this nation that recently went through a very public divorce and are just learning how to heal and move beyond it. Tom Brady and Giselle. If you were to have Tom Brady or Giselle, but I think it's Bunchen, I can never say her last name correctly. If one of them were to come to you and to say, Alberta, I want to work with you. I want you to be my divorce coach, and they'd done the work in therapy, how would you start with them?
So the 30-minute consult is going to let me know what their mindset is. Because again, it all starts with the mindset. I recently had a conversation with a celebrity, and that mindset, I don't care who you are. If you don't have the right mindset, then I can't serve you, and I'm not going to waste your time or my time.
Right. So in reality, regardless of how famous or not famous you are, divorce does not discriminate, and the trauma that precedes or results from a divorce doesn't discriminate. And so whether you're going through it right now, my friends, or you've just come out on the other side and you're trying to figure out how to redefine yourself and you want 2023 to be your year, you can definitely reach out to Alberta. And Alberta, you've mentioned that 30-minute consult, and I thought that I remembered you had a special little offer for our listeners.
Yes, and I'm sending you. I've already sent you a link for the free offer. So what I'm offering, my freebie, is for anybody that goes to the website. There are some tips on how to tame your emotional pain, and then I'm also going to encourage you to go ahead and book in a call, and let's have a conversation, and let's see, how I can help you improve your life and just heal from your past. And I'd love to partner with you.
what is the name of the website?
It's excelled-life.coach.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll put that and a link to that in the show notes too.
Yep, absolutely, listeners. So exhaled-life.coach. I was on that website, as was Kris, a little bit earlier. There's some great resources, but you can go over to that website with the link in the show notes, and you can book your 30-minute consult. Maybe you don't even know if you need coaching. Maybe you don't know if you're ready. That's a great thing, Alberta, about your services is you're going to help people talk through where they're currently at and whether they're in the right place to get started. And if not, when they might anticipate being ready to work with you. And, 2023, Kris and I keep saying, this is our year.
Oh, I'm so excited for 2023.
Yeah, we've been, there's some people that are like, don't have any high expectations for 2023. Go in with, your eyes at the ground and calmly and quietly, and don't disturb the year. But the thing is, we've all been through so freaking much in this country and in in the world over the last few years. I'm going to name it and claim it. 2023 is our year of living with purpose and becoming whole, happy, and healthy humans. And so, my friends, if you find yourself on the other side of divorce and you don't know what the next step is to take, reach out to our dynamic divorce coach, Alberta Jordan, and she's going to be right there with you to partner with you to wholeness. Right, Alberta?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And thank you so much for being on the show. We wish you all the best of luck, and we can't wait to hear all of the great things you continue to do.
Thank you, Kris and Kristine. I have enjoyed so much spending this time with you.
Enjoy listening to podcasts and ever wonder, can I make a podcast? But it seems so complicated, and good audio production can take time. What if there was a way to create an amazing podcast easily? Well, now there is. Introducing Podcasting Made Easy from Podtastic Audio. My production team will handle your entire audio production, allowing you to be the star of your show. This is Podcasting Made Easy. How easy? Well, so easy, you don't even have to press record. Now that's easy. Your listeners are waiting. Let's deliver. Sign up for a free strategy call today at podcasticaudio.com/easy. Hey, it was so great to have Alberta join us on the show today.
Absolutely. I thought that she had some really great insight about, navigating that journey after divorce and, just really figuring out how to grapple through those traumatic circumstances. And, I appreciated how she talked about the importance of not just working with her, but also like having a therapist in your life to be able to, dig deep into some of those wounds. And then she just like helps take you from there on out. And I think that's a really great approach. I think that therapy is something that's really important. And I think it's always great to have a coach in your life, don't you?
I do too, because you really, that the coach is just someone there that helps you work throughout your problems and kind of help you kind of push you along and make a better version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you possibly can be.
Yeah, I think that they just help you like reflect back on your own thinking and give you some tools and tricks and tips. And I mean, coaches are great in all different types of aspects of life, whether you're coming out of a divorce, whether you're, transitioning into a new job. I mean, you do podcast coaching. I coach. I'm a full-time coach in my main job, an executive coach. And then, there's so many different outlets. And so I think that no matter what you're going through, finding a coach that can meet you where you're at and, help you work through that it's just a great option.
And divorce is no fun picnic for anybody involved, I would say. Everybody who's gone through a divorce, it's been probably a pretty rough and emotional ride. And it's always good to have somebody there supporting you to help you navigate those difficult times.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it can be really isolating. And then you're making all of these decisions and living this chapter of life that you never expected. I mean, nobody gets married thinking like, oh gosh, this is going to fail or this is going to be over in a couple of years.
I wonder if celebrities feel that way, because you always hear these celebrity divorces, like get married and here they get divorced like a year later or 5 months later or whatever. I always kind of wonder if they just do it as like just because they can and they just like do it.
I don't know. Okay, so speaking of that, it's really funny. I was reading this story, not that divorce is funny, but I was reading this story on Apple News yesterday, and it was Pamela Anderson, way back in the day, she married one of her best friends, and they were married for only 12 days. And then they called it quits. And I guess it wasn't even like a legal marriage. It must have just been like symbolic or something like that.
Maybe like a Vegas drive-through wedding kind of deal.
I don't know, but it was just 12 days long. But this man, who's been her longtime friend, even after their marriage dissolved, he announced, I guess he was interviewed, and he revealed that he is leaving her $10 million in his will. And
no way.
And he just said that she didn't even know about it, but that he just thinks so highly of her and cares so much for her that he wants her to have it, whether she needs the money or not, to just do with it what she would like. Not like he's dying right now or anything like that. It was just, he wanted to share, like, he's, setting aside $10 million in his will for her. And I'm like, okay, all of us need divorces that are that healthy.
How would you feel if your spouse today, not saying me, I'm saying generally speaking,
you are my only spouse,
had a will for an ex-wife for like a large amount of money.
I didn't even think about that. I think he's single, but if he was remarried, I would be like, that is, I mean, community property. That's not possible. I mean, I don't think, but let's just assume that he's single, and let's really hope that he's not married and still leaving $10 million to his ex-wife of only 12 days.
Well, maybe he's loaded. He's got enough money to like, it doesn't matter, but
That's the principle of the matter, I think, right?
Right. Like, how would you feel if somebody had a will written down for, their ex?
Okay.
Not
We've already been there,
do.
done that. No, I'm not going to play that out anymore. Don't get any ideas, Kris. None of your exes.
Well, it's too late now.
None of your exes are getting millions of dollars. You just you're stuck with me, dude.
Of course. And I love every minute of it.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to share with our listeners?
No, that is about it, baby doll.
Well, so where can our listeners find out more about us and our fantastic adventures?
Well, you can go to our website, which is chrisandchristineshow.com, and everything you want to know is right on over there.
Absolutely. You can link to our social media pages as well as to our business pages and check out more about Podtastic Audio, Podcasting Made Easy, and Kristine Smith Designs. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back with you next week.